In this video, we're going to address what you do when you find a victim inside the structure. We're going to talk about communicating that find to your partner, communicating the find to command, checking for a second victim, manipulating the victim within the structure, and removing the victim from the structure. Okay, so now we're going to talk about communicating the find to your partner. In this scenario, the wall man is going to locate the victim. After he locates the victim, identifies the fact that it is in fact a victim, he's got to communicate that find to the room man. The way he's going to do that is he's going to say in an authoritative voice, "Victim, victim, victim." At that point, the room man bumps up and in to where the wall man is. The wall man places the room man's hand on the victim, so there's no question as to where the victim is. After that's done, the wall man prepares to communicate the find to command. In the meantime, the room man is checking for a second victim, conducting a quick sweep in order to do so. After the room man places his tool at the wall floor intersect, he's got to package the victim and get him ready to take him out of the closest egress.
Search, Charlie.
Search, Charlie.
Stop.
Stop.
Victim, victim, victim.
Victim, victim, victim.
Located victim. We'll be preparing an exit on the alpha side.
So, at this point you can see we've located the victim. The wall man is the one that located the victim. He communicated that to me, the room man. At that point, as a room man, I need to make my way to the upstream side of the victim. I need to make a quick cursory search for that second victim, because where there's one victim, we need to assume a second. After I've done a quick sweep, I'm going to put my tool at the wall floor intersect. The reasoning behind that is when the next search crew comes in, we want to expedite that as well as possible. What I mean by that is we're not going to search our way in with that second search crew. Both guys are going to get on the wall. They're going to make their way to the tool as quickly as possible. From there, they'll pick up the search and continue. So now let's talk about the information that needs to get relayed to command. Once the search crew has located the victim, they've communicated that to each other, they need to communicate that to command. Now, the information that's important that gets communicated to command is that you found a victim, where you found the victim, and where you intend to bring them out.
Command, this is search team. We've located a victim in the Alpha Bravo intersect. We will be bringing him out the Alpha side exit.
Okay, the next thing that we're going to talk about is the condition of the victim when you find them. Now, what we're going to assume here is that the victim isn't going to have a whole lot of clothes on. They're certainly not going to have bunker gear on. Because of that, we can't use their clothes to set them up. Because if we assume that their clothes is going to hang on when we pull it, that's where we're going to run into trouble. Next, if that patient has been burned, what happens is that fluid gets from the inside of the skin to the outside. It makes that patient really slick and very hard to handle. We're talking about dead weight that's slick and hard to handle. We're going to have to use a few different techniques in order to make moving that patient efficient. So instead of thinking of these as hands, we're going to think of these as hooks. And I'll go into more detail on that in just a minute. So we've located our patient. We've identified that in fact we have a patient here. The way we're going to figure out how our patient was oriented is we're actually going to start at the feet. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my hook, okay? I'm going to use my other hand, I'm going to put it on top of his knee. I'm going to use one hand, I'm going to hook it up underneath his heel. Now I'm just going to lift. If the patient is supine, this leg is going to come up nice and straight. If he's prone, go ahead and roll over, Doug. If he's prone, when I lift, it's going to lift right at this joint. It's a very quick and efficient way to determine how the patient is oriented. If he's on his side, you'll see that just by grabbing him, I'll be able to tell which way he's oriented, just like this. Next, let's talk about manipulating this patient from a supine position. We've located him, we've determined he is supine. The next thing that we do is we're going to work our way from toe to head. Work our way from toe to head. Now, what we'd like here is our patient's arms down at his side. That's going to give us our purchase points that we need to make this efficient. So, if your patient's arm is here, it's simply a matter of putting his arm down to his side. Next, you got to think about this right side to right side or left side to left side. If the patient is supine, we're right side to right side, my right side to his right side. I'm going to take this hook and I'm going to bury it deep. I'm going to bury this as deep as I can, and I'm going to pin his arm to my chest. Hook, that's the first step. The next step is to drive into my patient. So, his arm is pinned to my chest. I'm going to drive into the patient, just like that. Next, I'm going to post my foot by his head, just like this. Lastly, I'm going to pivot. And all I'm going to do is close my hips, and I'm going to sit the patient right up. Okay, again, we've got our patient in the position that he needs to be to start. We're going to go right side to right side. Hook is the first step. I'm going to bury the hook. Hook. Next step is drive. I'm going to drive hard, aggressively into the patient. The next step is to post. Notice that my other hand here is going to be palm down underneath the patient's head, and all I'm going to do is close my hips or pivot on this foot to a seated position. Okay, we've located our position. Now we need to determine his orientation. The way we're going to do that again is with our hook and on the feet. He bends at this joint, so I know he is face down. So now I'm going to work my way from toe to head. Now it's important when he's supine and I'm working my way toe to head that after I've checked this, I'm going to push this in towards this other leg. Because if this is out, my intention is to roll him towards me. And I can't roll him against his hip joint or his knee joint. So I've checked, I've figured out he's face down. I'm just going to kick this right over. I'm going to work my way up. Now, I've come to his next joint that we need to be careful of. I can't roll him against this shoulder joint. So what I'm going to have to do is get his bicep as close as I can to his ear. So I'm going to take his arm and I'm going to move it up just like this. Then I'm going to go to his head, because I can't roll him against his head either. Now he's in a position where I can manipulate him safely. So, now that I can manipulate him safely, I'm going to go right side to right side or left side to left side. In this case, it's going to be right side to right side. I'm going to bury my hook. I'm going to rock back. I'm going to post and pivot. It looks something similar to this. Hook. Notice now that I'm going to use this other arm to assist, and I'm going to aggressively rock backwards. The idea here is I'm going to rock aggressively enough to try and open these hips as much as possible. Next, I'm going to put my hand, palm down, underneath his head, post, lastly, pivot to a seated position. Notice that from here, I'm just going to lean slightly into the patient. I can rest if I need to. I can get on the radio if I need to. Perhaps the easiest way to find your victim is on his side, because he's already halfway through the process. We're going to determine that he's on his side just like we did before. We're going to work our way up to his head, and from here we're going to again bury the hook, post, pivot. Now once we're in a seated position, again, I have an opportunity to take a little rest. I can get on the radio if I need to. From here, however, I need to get him ready to go. The first step is I want to put his hands in his lap. The easiest way to do that is to just reach down by his elbows and bump those hands right into his lap. That way I'm not searching for hands here when I go to take my 2-on-1 hold. From here, I'm going to reach under Doug's armpit and grab his wrist. Notice that I'm going to be using what's called a monkey grip, okay, which is no thumbs. I'm going to reach under the other side, and I'm going to take a firm grasp. So I've got one hand on his wrist, one hand on his forearm. From here, I have solid contact points. The power is going to transition very well through his arm, his torso, and back to where I need him to go. Let's talk about why we're not doing it one-on-one anymore. Okay, so it used to be we would teach one-on-one, and what I mean by one-on-one was one hand on this arm, one hand on this arm. What we were finding is that when you moved the victim, oftentimes these arms would come out, and you wouldn't, and folks wouldn't pull through the torso, and it makes it a lot more difficult because you're trying to apply power, but it's leaking out the backside. So instead, we're teaching the 2-on-1. Here, this is going to transfer well straight through the victim. All my power is going to transfer. Okay, so we've talked about the commands up into finding the victim. And once you've located the victim, you're no longer searching once you're moving to the egress. So the command is move, and then the direction. If we're moving alpha, it's move alpha. Change of direction is still denoted by swing out. Now, the wall man is leading us out. The reason he's leading us out is because he knows the landscape, can skip over bathrooms, can skip over offices on our way to the egress. In addition, just because we came in alpha side egress doesn't mean that's the egress we need to go out of. We may go out of an egress on the Bravo side, Charlie side, but we're not going to drag the victim all the way around the house to find that. I may sit here with the victim for a short time while the wall man moves up 10 or 15 feet in the structure to find the egress that's closer than the one that we came in. Now, as he's leading us out, he needs to be careful not to get too far ahead. The reason he's leading us out is obviously to keep us oriented within the structure. When I sweep, I'm going to find the wall, and I'm going to find him. I may not find him on every sweep, and that's okay. In fact, that's going to actually expedite our search a little, or our extraction a bit. But what we need to be careful of is that he doesn't get too far ahead, particularly when there is a change of direction. So let's show that one time. Go ahead.
Move alpha.
Move alpha.
Swing out delta.
Swing out delta.
Primary egress.
Primary egress. There might be times in a search when you're not going to be able to move the victim on your own. And that's all right. We're going to show you how to do that with two people. Now, what we're going to talk about first is rotating the victim. Now, we're preparing for completely blacked out situations here. So I can't tell him right or left because he doesn't really know which way I'm oriented to know which way is right and left. But clockwise and counterclockwise is always the same. So if what we need to do is move this victim alpha or that direction, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take my hooks, I'm going to hook the far side ankle. I'm going to hook this far side ankle. I'm going to cross his legs. Next, I'm going to hook the ankle that's underneath the top ankle. After that, the head guy is in charge. He's going to say move clockwise or counterclockwise, and he's going to give me a degree. If it's opposite the one we're facing, he's going to say move 180 degrees clockwise or move 180 degrees counterclockwise. Ready, move.
Move 180 degrees clockwise. Ready, move.
Once we've got the patient oriented within the structure, we need to remove him using these two people now. First guy's got to be set first, and that's important. If he's not set first and the bottom guy gets set, there's no way he can get set. So, once the top guy is set, the ankles are crossed, I'm going to hook the bottom ankle and I'm going to move him up to my knee. I'm going to be careful not to elevate my knee too high because it forces the top side down. From here, I'm going to carry his legs just like a loaf of bread. It's pinned between my leg, my ribs, and my arm. With my other hand, I'm going to help to keep balance. My objective here is just to relieve a little bit of the friction from his bottom side. Again, my objective is to just relieve a little bit of the friction. It's not to lift a lot or to push a lot. Just relieve a little bit of the friction. The command is ready, move.
Ready, move. Ready, move. Ready, move. Ready, move.
This next person is going to be a two-person side-by-side. The idea here is my inside knee is up. So if I'm on Dougie's right side, the right knee is up. If I'm on Dougie's left side, it's the opposite. From here, I'm going to bury my hook deep. If we can grasp hands, that's great. A lot of folks aren't going to be able to grasp hands, and that's okay. Use that hook and pin that arm tight to your chest. Next, reach out with your other hand. It's going to help to keep balance, and the command is ready, move.
Ready, move. Ready, move.
One more.
Ready, move.
Okay, now, that drag, while nice, is limited in its application. What I mean by that is in your standard residential structure, a lot of times it's going to be difficult to go 3 across. Where this is going to be more applicable is in schools, grocery stores, hotels, larger structures where you're able to get 3 across. Generally speaking, we want to try and alleviate going from one drag to the next. It takes more time, it takes more energy. Generally speaking, when you start a drag, you want to try and finish it that way unless it's absolutely necessary to change it. Okay, we all know that we aren't going to find victims in the most ideal spots, and sometimes we're not going to be able to get to the victim's upper body in order to be able to sit them up. So what we're going to do is we're going to use their body structure and leverage to get them out. What I mean by that is first what we're going to do, we're going to cross far side to near side. Legs are going to go up onto my knee. From here, I'm going to pinch between my ribs, my leg, and my arm. If I do this properly, I really don't even have to wrap with my arm because his feet are what's preventing him from sliding out. From here, I'm going to take small bites to get him out of the corner. At this point, if I'm really close to the door, I can go ahead and finish the drag. I would discourage that, however, if I've got a good distance to the door. Go ahead, put those feet back down, and move to the upper body and drag him out using the one-person extremity. Okay, we've located the stairs. The way we've done that is either with the wall man leading us out or with my sweep. Once we figured out that we need to go up the stairs, ideally our wall man is going to go ahead of us and he's going to sound those stairs. He's going to clear any debris, hose as best as he can. At minimum, he's going to make me aware of it. At that time, he can come back downstairs and get ready to help. Now, on the stairs, the first thing that I'm going to need to do is move this patient up a couple of stairs. My bottom guy can't help until he's up 2 or 3 stairs. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to squat. I'm going to make sure that I leave enough room on the stair for his butt and my 2 feet. If my feet are too narrow, when I lift him up and bring him backwards, I'm going to pull him on top of me. And it's going to make things very difficult. So I need to make sure that I leave enough room. I can do that one of 2 ways. One, if the stairs are wide enough to allow it, I'm wide in my stance. The next way, if the stairs aren't wide enough, or if I'm tall and my body can accommodate it, I'm going to stagger. My bottom foot can't be any lower than the step I'm moving him to. So for example, if I'm moving him from the level he's on to the next level, my bottom foot has to be on that next level. It can't be on the level that I'm moving him from. So I'm going to move him up a couple of steps. 1, 2, 3. At this point, the bottom man can come in and help. Now from here, once the victim is moved up 2 or 3 steps, I'm going to do it the way I did it before. I'm going to cross those legs. I'm going to move those legs up to my knee. I'm going to wrap the legs. I'm going to put my hand on the step in front of me to help keep my balance. My objective again is to just relieve a little bit of the pressure. I'm going to help place the victim's butt on the next stair. But we only have to go up 6 to 8 inches. The command is ready, move, and it's the top guy's responsibility.
Ready, move. Ready, move.
Good. An important note on the stairs. Again, I'm trying to move as efficiently as possible. If I drive in too far or drive up too high, it makes it rough on the top man.
Ready, move.